I had mentally put everything on hold, and now it's time to take the hold button off. This is the Loud Quiet Living the Empty Nest. Hey guys, welcome back. Episode 68 of the Loud Quiet. We hope you had a great New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, and if you're like us, we've gotten all of Christmas put away, and this is really the weekend that you'd be like, okay, routine starts.
Yeah.
Back on Monday. We were you were already you went into the office, once last week?
Having the holiday, yeah, but having the holiday on Wednesday, suddenly there's two, quote, work days there to kind of reset after that. And it has me completely messed up.
I think it had everybody messed up. I think, I saw so many posts about, I don't even know what day it is.
Yeah.
I'm starting to drink at noon. It's fine. We didn't do any of that. But, it is just once you get through, I think everyone does this every year. It's, okay, Christmas is done, which, it's great. We had fun. We extended ours a little bit. Your sister and her husband and kids were here. And so we did things with them.
Yeah.
The last couple of days. And so I think everyone has that automatic of reset. The kids who are in school in Frisco are about to start back. Ours, well, Tanner actually starts this week. Tegan doesn't start for another, couple of weeks, but it's just the normal, okay, done, time to restart.
It does. And there's something about the I don't know what it is about the Wednesday one that has me kind of messed up. Next week will be that reset, but a lot of folks, that reset is the second or the third, and it was just such a false start, basically, that anyone who did try something, I wonder how many folks tried, sort of cliched resolutions or anything that are already getting somewhat disrupted here, certainly by the weather.
I bet no one started any routine, any new resolutions until tomorrow, because like you said, it was the middle of the week. It was weird. I've seen several posts of, in my feed, it's a lot of fitness stuff. Okay, the new fitness challenge is starting tomorrow. Hey, the new diet is starting tomorrow. And yes, I told y'all this weekend, all right, get it all in, because we certainly enjoyed ourselves over the holidays. So
yes,
which, is what that's
as
for.
Ross famously said, I'm carrying a little bit of holiday weight right now.
So for most people in my entire work life, that would be the start of going back tomorrow, getting back into routine. But it's different for me this year because I have no routine to go back to.
You've totally disrupted on so many levels your own self.
And like I was telling you when we were kind of talking about what we wanted to talk about, I'm a little scared. I had this, I retired, I had a surgery scheduled. So I knew I had 4 weeks from the date of the surgery that I couldn't work out. I couldn't do a lot of things that I would normally be doing. That was my mental, I have 4 weeks. I have, and I think you to some degree, because you were helping me the first week, and then the kids were home. I think both of us had put a lot of things just on pause.
December, what was the date of your surgery? I don't remember the exact date, but
The
December
9th.
Okay, so December 9th forward has just simply been a continual state of disruption from the norm. I'm not saying bad. I'm purposely using the word disruption because it just was different than the norm. And yes, there was elements of taking care of you. And then it was, the kids are back, so I don't want to miss out on that. I want to go to dinners. I want
The surgery and recovery was actually a very small part of that.
It just started it.
It did,
That
yes.
was kind of
right.
from
That was the
moment
kickoff.
has been,
Yeah.
and everything to that point has put a lot of things on hold. And we talked about it in my world. I want to hear more about what you're talking about because you've got so much more. But in my world, I talked about how I was almost distracting myself from the big things by doing the little things. Well, it's a lot easier to do some of those little busy things when you're in a disrupted phase as opposed to focusing on the big things.
And that's, even you said something the other day, hey, let's do this. And I said, I can't. And you're like, oh, I forget that you're not,
That's right.
I don't get cleared until tomorrow.
And it wasn't anything
So,
like it was
no,
so
let's get in
innocuous.
the hot
Get in the
tub. But
hot
I was
tub.
like, you're not supposed to be, I don't, some of my
This wasn't like
suit
go
or,
ziplining or anything. You know,
yeah,
you
but
just
some of my
forget.
things are still healing. I'm pretty much, I mean, tomorrow I go in and he'll clear me for everything. But so it's just those, I've had that in the back of my head and in the front of my head that I can't go to the gym and lift my weights like I used to. I have been very good. I followed the
Yeah.
protocol. I probably yesterday Tegan and I got up and did my just princess walk as he calls it, just neighborhood walk, and then we met your sister and her family at Meow Wolf, did that. We went shopping at Grapevine Mills. We went to round one. I did more steps yesterday than I've done in the last four
Oh,
weeks, and
yeah.
I could feel like the swelling this morning when I woke up. It's still there, and I could feel it. I was like, "Oh." So I you got to ease back into stuff, but that was a key part of my career and routine was going to the gym every day. So I am so thankful that uh, some people might think, why did you do that? Choose to do that at this time? I am so glad I did because she was home. Tanner was home briefly, but she was home the whole time. So I had a distraction here. I would have gone crazy if I
Yeah.
was just sitting
You
around and
already
couldn't do
you already
anything.
were going a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
you had
I,
your stir crazy
yeah.
moments.
And I had, I would parse out the errands that I had so that I made sure I had something that I could
Another
leave,
Friends reference.
leave the house. Yeah, and that's a Wednesday. So, anyways, but yes, and not just getting back into that, but I'm a little fearful of, okay, how am I going to fill my days?
So you said that was my career, that was my I forget the two words. I wish I could go back in my brain and think of it, but you said two things.
Routine, career and
Routine.
routine. Yeah.
I think there's a bigger word. It's your identity. There
Yeah.
was a lot of your identity
Mm-hmm.
wrapped up in this, and we spent a lot of time talking about how you and me to some degree, but certainly you almost a year and months ago were going through a similar change when it was my identity as primary mom role is gone with a kid that has gone off to college. I'm sorry, longer than what I said, right?
Yeah.
When Tegan went off as a freshman. And the beginning of the whole empty nest thing.
No,
This is,
it's been a year and a half, but I've been over that.
oh my gosh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, well,
But
that just
yeah.
shows that there's a whole, but the point I'm trying to make is you're going through, I, I don't know that we really appreciated that this is going to be on the same caliber of identity reset as that.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Just because I had already let that identity go a little bit in the last, I would say, 8 months of working.
Hmm.
Things had just started to change. There were some, just, or well, really, actually, I mean, I would say almost post COVID because people didn't come back to the gym.
Okay.
They all found,
I
and
get that.
so yes, my life and career was still at the gym, but I had already started to pull away a little bit
Yeah.
from that identity. This one is not going to hit me as hard as as the mom thing, but it because
Well, that makes
I'm still
sense.
going to find a gym. That's what I have to do tomorrow. I've got to go. I already went into one gym and I was like, no. And so, I mean,
Oh,
I
you're going to be
said,
one of those
well,
people looking at new gyms in
it's
January.
hard because our gym is so quiet, small, smaller. It's not small, but quiet. It's so clean. We have an awesome
Yeah.
man who cleans our gym. I mean, I walked into the one and I said, it smells like feet. And I was like, I can't. And
And,
that's not the only reason I left it because it's the gym that Tian goes to and she loves it. But I was like,
yeah.
and you were like, yeah, it's a gym. I
It's
was like,
called a
I
gym.
know, but for the past how many ever years I've been.
So I can obviously well, and you've certainly thank God you've been this way. Your career was not more important than your family. So perhaps I was misspeaking when I said it's going to be on the same caliber. It's still a dramatic identity shift. As you said, you're walking into this with some anxiety. Did you, like, as you think back over the last 4 weeks, had you put any mental energy into this day tomorrow? Like, do you have a thought of, okay, this is what I was intending to do, or are you starting afresh tomorrow of I don't know what to do?
I think I didn't want to think about it as much. And we have so many things planned already for the spring. Like our calendar is filling up quickly, that I was more focused on that. And really, again, this is not, I think we're making the gym part a bigger part of what because I'm not really scared. I walk into gyms all the time. I'm not,
No, that's
that,
not what I mean. I meant just kind
right.
of you know what I am saying is tomorrow morning you have no dictates on your schedule.
Well, that's not true. I have a doctor's appointment I have the grocery store. So no, I have my normal,
Okay, okay, you
no.
got me on doctor's appointment. You're right, that's on there. I'm not going to the grocery store. You control that now. You could go at any point that you want. You don't have an external factor driving it. Both the things that you just described there, you're in control of.
Sure. But I will probably stick to my still
Yeah,
same routine that I have done my grocery store runs. But I know I already have on the docket tomorrow that I am going to go visit the other gym that's on my list
hmm,
and see how it is. And, probably sign up if it's, what I'm looking for. Because I know I can work out at home. We've had to do that
sure,
but I don't like it. I
yeah,
like to go somewhere. I don't know if when I was younger and even I loved the classes.
yeah.
I don't know if I care about that as much anymore, but I just like to be able to go somewhere. But I think the bigger thing is, again, like I said, what am I going to do to fill my days? I've already got a list of, I do want to get more involved in, you know, service
Right.
type things. I've already got but again, I was starting to get emails from some of them, and I was like, okay, I'll just wait until, so I do need to really dig into that. And then, you know, the other thing I was telling you is that the devotional that I'm doing right now is like dream. God wants you to live your dream. It's really actually good. It's on the Bible app. And so it is about purpose, but not even purpose, really dreams that you have. And one thing that it's Rick Warren, one thing that he said is, once you've spoken something into existence, then you have to let it go and give it to God so that he can
Hmm.
do with it what he wants. But you also have to do stuff yourself. And so, we have spoken something into existence. How, where are we going with this?
Yeah.
What are we doing? I'm sure you have
Yeah.
some
Well,
trepidation about that as well.
I don't know. It's not trepidation. You know what? It's something that you said. Well, there's a couple things. One is I always have a discomfort with the speaking into existence because I'm not one of those manifest. If you say it, it'll happen. But I think what I'm hearing there is just declaring this is the path forward.
And let me say, he did not say speaking it. Well, he may have used those words, but he said, if you're telling people
That's
about
what.
it,
Yes, that's what I'm
that's
saying.
what,
It's
yes.
the equivalent of there's a phrase like hang a shingle,
Yeah.
meaning that old school kind of shingle. I
Hmm.
am going to open this business. I am going to sell
Yeah.
cupcakes.
We have said we are going to
Yeah,
do
and
this.
so that's just for me that phrase kind of hits the ears differently. But it is we've declared that this is the path that we want to make an attempt at. That idea of we control the inputs but we don't control the results is one that I've continually been challenged by, been struggling with because I know what I can do, but when the results aren't there, it's that releasing over that makes it a challenge to accept the fact that the results are out of my control.
We probably actually should have been doing this one. You might want to do it as well.
Yeah.
We probably should have been doing it together because we are about to, really
Hmm.
try to hard launch this new idea that we have.
There's another thing that you mentioned there that quiet times of my own of the past have talked about this. And this is not one that I have an answer to. This is one that I still struggle with. And that is, what is the balance between waiting patiently on God and actually doing something? Right? There is there are the verses that are, basically saying, hang tight, I got this. Kind of as the Israelites were going to the Red Sea, there was that. There's the reality, though, is
Don't pay attention to the screen. Sorry, I'm just pulling up something, but go ahead. Yes, I'm listening to you.
the reality is there's activity expected, required. God, there have been verses that say the value of work, do what you are doing as if you are doing it for the Lord, right? So it is not the just give it over to God and sit there patiently waiting as you consider what your belly button looks like, but rather, and so that balance has been a real challenge for me between activity and patience.
And he started to get into that today because he's going to break down the 6 steps.
Yeah.
But one of the thing that one of the verses was Ecclesiastes 11:4 that says, "If you wait for perfect conditions, you will never get
Amen.
anything done."
Right.
And so that kind of goes along with, sometimes you have to. We all know, yes, God does amazing miracles, but He also expects us, I think, to put in a little effort, towards the goals and dreams that we have.
Yeah, there's no there, it's very clear that we're not rubbing a magic genie lamp here
No,
anyway.
no.
And so
And
and
what's hard with that is sometimes we feel like we've put in so much effort and it still doesn't
well, it
pan out.
depends on what we're talking about, right? Because I was talking about last year, I feel like I've done all the busy work, but haven't done the real work, the real design, the real things. How often we've talked about, hey, let's go off and do a retreat together and do a business retreat and all that kind of stuff. Have we ever done it? No. And so those sorts of things that we have to do. Now, I know that I've put it off until kind of this magic moment that is next week. And then guess what's going to happen? I'm going on a road trip to take Tegan back to school. Come back a few days later. Then we go to what I'm eagerly awaiting, this Podfest conference. And I almost see that as another kickoff, an inspiration and educate, not just inspiration, but educational moment for both you and me, that when we come back that Monday, what are we doing?
And I don't, because, what you said, we didn't do the retreat. No, but we did start. I came up to your office. We got a lot of stuff done, those
Yes,
kind of things.
in that
And
activity category. And I think it's
yeah,
good. We're just, well, I was about to say we're done with the activities. Now that's crap. Every single day that I show up to the office, I can fill it with activity
yeah.
and still not advance the objective that we're talking about. But what about in your world? Like, as you think back to next week, is that the kind of thing that you could do? Is fill your week with activity, but not achieve what you're actually trying to achieve?
I actually was thinking about that this morning, and some of the things that I do want to fill the time with, I was like, okay, I am going to start, and I'm going to start in our guest room, bathroom, closet, and go through
I had to think
that.
about that.
Or sorry, not the guest room, bathroom, the downstairs
Yeah.
half bath closet. And the guest room is another.
I was like, wow, that's
No,
ambitious.
there's not anything in that bathroom. It's pretty clear, but you know, and I was like, okay, I can start there and I can go through because again, there are things, and I'm looking to we have a lot of things in our plans that we want to do over this next year and a half, wherever it trickles into. I'm already mentally thinking, okay, if we do decide to move Tanner into a house, he can have this bedroom furniture. I'm already mentally
Right.
going through that stuff. So there's things like that. There's also, the book that I've said that I'm going to write, which
I was
is
hoping that'd
this
come
is
up
the
today.
time that I need to start it because it is a holiday themed book. And so yes, there are things, but then I can find things to fill my time that I'm like, yeah, I don't really want to do that. So let me do this instead.
Okay,
So
so I'm going to ask this more point blank as a how are you, but the reality is how can we? What are you going to do to prevent from that?
I don't know because I don't like, I know you work so well on, I am scheduling 30 minutes to do this. I'm
I have it
scheduling,
in my calendar.
yes, I know.
The so well part is
Yeah.
challenged, but I understand what you're
Well,
saying. It's there.
but I don't come from that.
Yeah.
I've never worked in an office. That was not my job path. I've never worked in an office.
Right.
Never. That was not my mentality. That's not how I worked. All the jobs that I have had or careers that I have been very, I don't know what the word would be, hands on, people oriented, that type of thing, which I get that's not, but not, yes, there were
You're
schedules,
not in a corporate building
but
in
yeah, it
pumping.
was just, mine was just different.
Yeah.
So I've never sat at a desk and done work. So I
Trust me, there's
don't
a lot of
I
people
know.
listening right now going, "Oh man, I wish that
Uh,
my world was
so
like
I
that."
don't work that way. So I'm going to have to, and again, now my office is my house. I or my job place is my house unless, and I come up to your
Well,
office.
as we may try to find an office in a studio, but yeah,
Yeah.
your point's
So,
there.
there's just, it's going to be a challenge. And again, at least this first week, I still have Tegan is home.
Oh yeah.
There's a vet. Tanner will be home tomorrow night for y'all to go to the football game. So there's
Oh.
still things, distractions.
So it'll be interesting, how that is going to look like for you is what that's going to be. And there will always be some level of distraction. Can we go back to something that you said though, because it's in this vein with the distraction. You didn't use the word, I just don't know what I'm doing, or I've got to feel. You used the word, I'm feeling a little bit anxious. Can we talk more about the emotions of what you're going into? Like, describe what you mean when you're saying that.
Well, I think I've said, and I'm not like super. I'm not having like a you know crisis or anything.
Yeah.
It's not like that. It's just I had mentally put everything on hold, and now it's time to take the hold button off. And so, I mean, I think I said, the thing I'm most nervous about is how am I going to fill my time?
Uh-huh.
That's, and again, you don't have to fill your time,
That's a real important point.
but I don't like to, and maybe this is something I learned. I don't like to be still. Now I can sit and watch a show for, I can binge with the best of them, but at some point I'm like, but again, I gave myself a lot of freedom to do that over the last
Yeah.
4 weeks because I had to.
Hmm.
I was told to. And so I had already gotten into more of when I got home from work, even usually at lunch or later lunch when I would eat, I would turn the TV on. I had already stopped
Yeah.
that. So,
I remember you mentioned
and
that a
and
couple
I
of,
had
yeah.
already pushed. Okay, I'm gonna wait until 4 o'clock and watch a show until you get home or
Yeah.
so. So
Yeah.
I had already started making those efforts towards that kind of thing because I knew I needed to. But I mean, I fell right back into it these
Sure.
last 4 weeks. But
Because you needed to, and
yeah.
I don't think you're, beating yourself up about
So
that or
I
anything like
so
that.
I'm not. I just think there's just, you know what it is? There's a lot of things that I am so excited about, and there's a lot of things that I'm ready for us to move on. And but even I was the one this weekend that I was like, what? We don't have to do this right now. And it's not like it has to be so involved.
Right.
So, I actually, whereas I am usually the one like, let's go, let's get it, let's do, and so I could feel myself saying, we don't need to rush on this right now. Or if we want to go see this house, call a realtor. Who cares? That's their job. It doesn't mean that we're going to buy this house
Right.
just because we walk in the front door.
That
And it's not a house for us, but
that
anyway.
the what you're talking about is that power of no. And I've been reading a lot about the power of no. and not just around boundaries and relationships. That's part of it. Deciding what is important, and a lot of that is divinely driven, right? Your quiet times guide you there. The other thing that I found a lot of insight from is being willing to let your passions, your interests, help define some of that no. Now, there's a balance. There's stuff that you don't want to do and you still have to do. And I'm speaking to contextualize this. I'm talking about business. There are things that I do as part of CX Passport that I don't necessarily enjoy. And I'm really questioning, is there value in that? Is that an activity that I'm not seeing an output from, and therefore I should stop it? Or it's still an activity I need to continue because the output's coming later, the release. And so when I think of, you have a lot of objectives and ideas and ambitions and those kind of things that you're excited about, that prioritization, not just you, Clancy, but that prioritization is a really challenging thing to figure out.
You know, listening to you say that, which I have two things to say. One is, okay, so when I said we're going to say yes to more, and I get you're talking about business.
Oh, yes
but
to
it's
activities and
like,
fun and travel.
but
Like, that's an automatic yes.
but the documentary that we watched last night totally just
Ooh.
wrapped. I mean, what you just said
Yeah.
could have been the tagline for the documentary we watched last night on Netflix. Is about Avicii. If you have, or even if you're our age, you would know his music. 2011 was one of his biggest hits. That, I mean, I used to listen with my kids. EDM artist, and
And crossed
and
over. That's
crossed
the
over,
thing.
and
He
yes,
exited.
huge crossover into
You would have heard
pop.
him on regular radar.
And I mean, and unfortunately, it's a tragic ending. I'm not, but a really good documentary just about how he thought that was his passion, but it really killed what he loved doing, and the reason that he was doing what his fame and rise just killed the love that he had for it.
Because he was doing so much, so many events, so many conferences, so many collaborations, so many, and that power of no. There's no way to know
He just
whether
wanted to make music.
yeah, and there's no way to know whether the power of no would have created a different outcome to that story. It still is a cautionary tale. I'm glad you
Yeah.
bring that up.
And he had started to back off, and then,
Yeah.
so it, again, really good. Y'all would probably recognize his music. He is one artist that Tanner has on his list of he would have loved to have
Yeah.
seen him.
You had said, well, and I would say that, let's say that you couldn't care less about EDM or don't know the artist. It's still a really good
Oh yeah,
story, right? So even outside of
yeah.
awareness of the artist, I think
Because really, it's not like they showed a bunch of
it's a key
EDM.
part of
Yeah,
it, but it's not
but
gonna.
it's not the folk.
Nah.
Like it
The
wasn't the
crafting,
focus.
it could have been anything. He could have been a really famous carpenter.
If you want the music part, the real music, and they do have
Yeah.
the his last concert on there too. But
You had said there were two things.
well, I said the yes. 'Cause
Oh,
I
oh,
said
okay,
that, yeah.
got it. Yeah,
That one I just, but
there's something that I do. When you were talking about that filling the days, and you do a really good job of staying busy. Something that I've put in my calendar, and I'd say that I'm about 40% successful at doing it. But I have I think it's daily. If not, it's 4 days a week. A ponder and plan block in my calendar. And my intention there, and sometimes I actually put on ambient music just to kind of put some sort of input in the brain to kind of distract. And it really is, the only ambition is sit there and let the thoughts flow. And I know that has served me well. And it's hard. Oh my gosh, it's hard to sit still. I've even had to turn off my monitor so that I don't see alerts coming in. I don't turn off phone, that kind of thing. It has proven itself. It's one of those that I frequently don't want to do, and yet almost every time when I do it, there's something new, there's something creative, or there's something that's simplified coming out of it.
yeah.
Could you do that?
I don't know. I just don't know if that would work for me. That's my, because I get my good brainstorming things, or I, when I'm listening to my podcast, I'm like, oh, that's a really good idea,
Yeah.
I I don't know. I don't know if that would work for me. I I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to try it. I don't know. I think I do better when there's back and forth,
Yeah.
or and that's probably because the industry and where I was working before, we would, okay, well, maybe we should try this, maybe we should do
Right.
this, maybe, and so um I,
Well,
I
certainly
think,
not dictating
well,
it.
no, and I think I
You
had,
must do
well,
this.
no, I know, yeah, I know, but I think I have in my head the things that I need to do,
Yeah.
and so I don't know if pondering would help me
Yeah.
with that, or if I just need to sit down and get my booty going
I
on
will
some of
say
these
that.
things.
You know, when people talk about writing and they say, I'm really having trouble getting started writing. Hey, author, what's the best way for me to start writing? Most authors say, start writing.
Yeah.
And so you're right that activity can generate
Yeah.
creativity as well. It's just there. I've had things that have really unlocked. The last I did that on Friday, and there was something in particular that got unlocked for me. I still don't know how to do it, but there was a barrier that really got unlocked that was not planned. I didn't sit down thinking, how am I going to solve this challenge? But
Yeah.
it hit.
And I think because of what, you're looking at the bigger, yours is a little more abstract than mine is. Like,
At this point, yeah, I don't.
right.
I think
Yes.
you've got plenty
You're
of
still,
abstract ahead of you.
sure, but you're still trying, we're still in the planning phase of, I already have the idea. I have this,
Yeah,
like I said, I've already started. I have my notebook downstairs.
yeah,
I just did some stuff last year at this time and then put it away and never opened it again. So I need to just open it up
yeah,
and start again.
yeah.
So,
Well, we'll do a little check-in, see how
yeah.
see how the anxiety, and not
No.
capital A,
Yeah.
but you use the word anxious because that's a word that we use. It's just we'll see how that evolves as you get into this phase of life.
No. I think I use the word fear. I
Huh.
don't know that I use the word anxious, but I don't like putting, like,
Well,
it's
there's
just
such a
fear of the
clinical overhead
unknown.
on that, and I don't mean to layer that.
Yeah.
Fear certainly works better.
And again, it's not some deep seated, it's just, I know tomorrow is the day that, okay, it's
Yeah.
come. So,
You know what? There is something incredibly powerful about forced moments. When the excuses are stripped away, and I may be overusing that word excuse, the reasons, let's use that word. When the reasons are stripped away, it suddenly gets really, really powerful. I've experienced that in the job that I was doing before you and I decided to start working together. That that forcing mechanism of there's nothing else, got to do it.
and it's not like I'm saying I'm going balls to the wall and I'm going to be at, some community service place every day of the week and I'm right, and I'm, you know,
I can't wait to see the foundation that you
so
create.
getting back to the workouts I was doing before, no, that's going to be the hardest thing for me, is to ease myself back
Yeah,
in.
yeah.
But, new gym, that'll help with that a little bit. So,
I will say this this was kind of a conversation. Thank you all for listening in between Clancy and me. I will say this though, those of y'all that are listening, the community that y'all are, if you've made it this far, thank you for listening. Let us know. Are you going through something like that? Or did you go through something like this? And what wisdom do you have to share? Tell us. We'd be happy to, one, learn from it, but then also we'd love to share that out with y'all. And then the usual. If you really liked what you heard today, tell somebody about it. Tell somebody about the Loud Quiet. Tell them where they can find it and share something. We'd love to grow the community and grow the folks that are part of this conversation that we're trying to have.
yeah. And we're hoping that when we go to this event later in the month that, we'll learn some new things to bring to the platform. And
Yeah. Oh, there's I'm so excited about that. We'll see how it all grows.
hopefully start praying that no weather events because it could be on our end this
That's right.
time because this week doesn't look so great
If
for
we
here.
don't get
So.
to go to Orlando the second time in a
We're
row, we're
never.
never going to an event there
Yeah.
ever.
Well,
Well, we'll see how it all
well,
goes.
yeah, yeah. Thanks for listening to my word vomit about.
I would say that it is another instance of verbal therapy, and we just enjoy that conversation.
Yep.
Verbal therapy on The Loud Quiet,
Living
Living
the
the
Empty
Empty
Nest.
Nest.